All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Jason Leva here with the Fort Worth Community Arts Center, and we are so excited to have everyone back for another episode of our Boxed Lunch program. Today, we have another fabulous artisan and leader in our artistic community, all the way from Ballet Frontier, the one and only Enrica Tseng. How did I do? Did I get close?
You got very close. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here and to be sharing, what we will share in the next few minutes. So thank you so much for inviting me, Jason.
Of course, we are just absolutely so excited to have you, and so gracious for you taking the time, and so excited to hear how things are going for you. So Enrica, do you mind just giving us a little bit of insight as to who you are and what it is you do?
So I am, for Ballet Frontier, I'm their artistic advisor to Ballet Frontier, and my husband is the artistic director of the company. The company was founded in 2009 as a nonprofit, and we started first as a youth company, and now this will be the 5th year that we're offering contracts to professional dancers. So we will have a nice group of professional dancers coming from all over the world, literally, Colombia, Spain, Japan, Taiwan. So it's going to be very nice here the next season. So I assist, the company, but I'm also the director of the studio of Ballet Center Forward, which soon we'll have recitals at the Scott Theatre finally. I'm so excited to come back.
Yes, absolutely. And your recitals are coming up pretty quick. We talked a little bit off camera and before we hit the go button, and there's a lot of really insightful information. And, I said to you myself, it's becoming very apparent that we're moving forward. I know that we continue to debate if that's a good thing or a bad thing, and to each their own. I think the reality for everyone is that it is happening, and things are advancing, and I'm very hopeful with vaccines and people's awareness of how we got through this last year, that we are on a more positive slope to get back to doing what we all love to do so much, which of course is creating art. So I'm curious, Enrica, can you tell us a little bit about how have you and your company managed this last year and made it through to where we are today?
Yes. So first of all, when we were allowed to open gyms, we opened very carefully the studio. We are lucky, blessed enough to have a beautiful building that it's our own. And each studio has doors that have access to outside, to outdoor. So we design a system to where kids come in and go out one way. And of course, we had to close the lobby of the studio. So the dancers were able to come back carefully, with temperature checks daily and mask in the studio, making sure that everything was ventilated well. And Jason, if I can share it with you, we didn't have a COVID case in the studio.
Bravo.
So, but we have been we clean the studio daily. The whole building gets cleaned up every night. And now we have a lot of volunteers dancers that stay behind and help us. But it's been working. So that was the major step that we took. And then initially we were very careful with contact, even if they were working on choreography, do not touch each other, stay apart. And then the more they felt comfortable, the more, we had a lot of conversations, say, look, if you want to do this, if we want to go on with the company, you have to be very aware and very careful of what you do outside of this building. Because you cannot come here and be very good and then you go outside and party and have no mask on. So we address that all the time. And the dancers did a fabulous job. Nobody brought it, came back and say, I'm sorry, I have COVID and I have to stay out. Nobody, none of them. So we were of course, we had to reorganize the whole season. Who didn't? Everybody, right? So in 2020, we were supposed to do Swan Lake in April. Of course, got canceled because COVID hit. Then we postponed it. We thought, okay, let's try for September. Do you remember that this time last year, we were so hopeful for the fall? Oh, we're going to be fine. In the fall, we're going to be fine. Well, comes August, we're like, there is no way we can do Swan Lake in September, so cancel it again. So we decided to target Nutcracker, like do a creative version of the Nutcracker. We didn't do the big scenes that involved so many people, like the party scene or the battle scene. We started from Snow, and we modified some of the dances that had a lot of like a contact, made sure that that wasn't happening. And we did a creative first part of the show with like a different programming every day, which was very hard. And then Nutcracker, and it was very welcomed by the audience. We did that with Rogers, of course, separating all the audience, and all of that. And then we planned for our Swan Lake to come back in February. And guess what? Swan Lake was St. Valentine weekend, and ice storm hit. It was like, no, again. This is there was like a speller on Swan Lake. Every time we wanted to do it, something happened. But we were so, like driven to move forward with it. So we did that weekend. We were supposed to do a Saturday night and a Sunday matinee, and that's when the storm was coming in. And so we moved the evening show to an afternoon show, postponed that one 2 weeks later. And guess what? Because of course, we had a small capacity at the theater, but both shows were sold out. So we had to add one more show for 2 weeks later. So it was good. We were successful. So we were very happy about that. Yeah. But again, even at the theater, even the performances, the dancers, they all wore masks. We only allowed a couple of them that we knew they were either living together or they were like super comfortable or tested, to partner, like the Sugar Plum and the Cavalier. They moved the mask on stage, but everybody had the mask on. We provided masks, we provided, protective equipment for the performances as well. Even Swan Lake, everything was with mask on. So it was necessary to do it. And we felt like, what is more important, to sit out and don't do much of it at all at the theater for like almost a year, or try to do it, but be very careful. And everybody voted, let's do it and be very careful. So that's what we decided to do and move forward with it. And we were happy because we gave jobs to stage crew that were doing nothing for a long time, and they felt good about doing it, and they felt it was safe enough, being around us, because we were taking so many measures to do it right. And it's funny because the first performance that we did of Nutcracker, the audience, they all knew that they had to wear masks, but it was so natural that so many of them came in the auditorium, took the mask off as they were coming in the auditorium. It was like, no, you have to keep it on. Don't take it off yet. Yeah, but it was successful. We even had the mayor coming to watch our Nutcracker, so it was very nice.
Well, it's just absolutely incredible. There's so many things that I want to ask you. I know, I've had the pleasure of working with you over at the Scott, and it's very apparent. And I wish I could say that this was consistent across the board that I've experienced personally in this last year. But I hear you talk and I hear you address points, and what I'm so excited about, and what I, continue to really, really respect in all of the things that you've talked about, is how little you've talked about yourself and how much you've talked about taking care of other people. And in this crazy time, I've heard a lot of people talking about the importance of art, which I agree with, and a lot of people saying that we have to find a way to get back to this. But what I continue to hear and see from you is how you always have your people's best interest in mind, from your practices at your studio to your performances as we were coming out of this. You're one of the first people that I've heard say stage crew. Most a lot of these other entities, they kind of just take that for granted, that these outside circles are coming to you. And it's just so inspiring to hear you talk from the inside looking out. And it really is a very encouraging thing. Now you came into us, you got to walk the theater. We talked about protocols and things like that. And I can't say it enough that your insight to try to work with the Art Center so that everyone was moving forward in the same direction, it really, really puts an ease in protocols and procedures to then be able to relax that focus, knowing you're prepared, and then be able to come back and address the art. And that allows the art to elevate. And it's just something that it's just so encouraging for me to hear those things coming from a producer and a group, because it is a struggle. And I think we both agree that we know the necessity of having to have a product that keeps us alive emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, all of those things. We've got to find a way to make it happen. But I am so inspired hearing you talk about a balance between people and product. Yeah. Where does that come from? Is that in your mission? How do you have that insight and that wherewithal to find the balance between the people and the product?
Well, it's probably because I always have my hands everywhere, like in the production. I love being in the studio and rehearsing, but that's not only my job. I usually, I'm kind of like, I consider myself a little bit of production manager. I make sure like when shows come along that we have the right number of stage crew that we need. We contacted everybody and we work with the people that they know what we need. That everybody is in the correct place at the correct time. So I think when the pandemic hit, to me, it hit not only, oh boy, I have to shut down the studio. Not only that, yes, I have to shut down the studio. There are all these people that are involved in the art that are going to be out of jobs for how long? I don't think too many people realize that, how much and how many people it takes to put a production on. It's not only put on the pretty tutu and go on stage, go practice. It's not,
yes.
And being in this, having been in this, in this city, I came in forward in 1998 when I was hired by Texas Ballet Theatre as, with my husband as a dancer, and we have been here since. And of course, we have many friends, and not only in this, dancer circle, all over. So you think about them, you worry about them, like how, if I am struggling and I'm trying to figure out how to do a virtual class, well, what someone that was working in the theater can do right now? Nothing. You cannot do a virtual lighting, So, that was, always in my mind. And, I know it affected me too, hearing all of, my friends without job and not knowing when they were going to go back to the theater. So it's been a long and difficult road, but I think, like you said, we are slowly coming out. And we decided at the company, so we did some virtual things from the studio, like usually we do outreach for the kids, for Nutcracker, but of course there was no field trips and anything. So we work with Imagination Forward to do Nutcracker excerpts from the studio. We did like 4 or 5, and believe it or not, we reached like 2,400 kids by doing it like that.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we did something for the good children, something with the Junior League of Forward. But those are not really like the only few virtual performances that we did, because we decided, I know many of my colleagues decided to do, and they were very creative, and I admire them a lot, doing a lot of like in studio, recording and then displayed it online. Right. But my husband, he's the driving force of the company, and he felt like you cannot shut a dancer from being on stage for a year. You cannot do that. We'll have to find a safe way to bring them to the stage. And we did. We all worked super hard, coming out with the correct protocol, even at the theater. and go and visit the venue beforehand to make sure that we knew exactly where the audience was coming in, where the dancers were coming in, like we did with you the other day. And I want to say, Jason, that I was very impressed about the Community Arts Center. You guys did a fantastic job, because last year when I had to cancel the recital that we had scheduled for the end of May, it seems, of course, the most logical thing, because we knew it was going to be, a small place with a lot of people, and people probably didn't want to come. And but I was very impressed yesterday. So thank you so much for taking such an amazing care of the center and for allowing us to come back and perform. I'm so excited. So excited.
I appreciate you saying that. And it's a challenge, and this firsthand. Not everyone is ready to bend and to work with the artistic community, to sacrifice, to make adjustments. And it's key to our return. We are all going to have to give a little, and whether you like it or not. I mean, as a performer myself, I don't always agree with the direction I get.
Of course,
it's my responsibility to move that forward for the greater good. And I look forward to a time where there's a little more clarity in that necessity, not just in the art world, but all around. And I said this to you before, I understand people's personal positions. I respect it, and I get it. We don't all agree. But for the betterment of all, I still am going to continue to speak my mind about all of us trying to find some common ground and a direction forward.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's crazy, and I again am always inspired when people talk about a bigger picture and are thinking beyond their own necessity, because we've been in this for over a year now, and we're gonna have to keep finding our way out of it. And I've joked about this a couple of times. I skipped my pandemic class in college. I didn't apparently didn't study hard enough. And when you talk about procedures and protocols at the Arts Center, we just leaned into it and said, how are we going to do this? And we just did all we could. We really did try to empower ourselves with the science that we were seeing, and it's been productive for us. We've managed, and yes, we all want it to be what it was. I'm not sure it ever will be, and I really hope that at some point we can understand that life is not always about looking back. And the more you look back, the less you can see ahead of you.
Exactly, yeah.
And you've got to be present in the now and move to your future, and use the past as a viewfinder.
Right.
But I don't think it's all about what we used to do. I think it's about what are we going to do. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic. I'm talking about improvement, personal growth, all of those things.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you look behind you, is that where you're going to stay? I personally want to see who I can be, not who I was.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that everybody feel the same way. Like, yes, it has been a very hard time, but it has been a time where we learned so much about as human being, and about, dealing with one another and opinions and all of that. But I think that's why history is so important.
Yes.
We have to have history, because we all make mistakes, and we need to make mistakes in order to be better people, so I hope that everyone is going to look back and think about that, and and move forward with a different mind, a different respect and appreciation for one another, really.
I certainly hope so. And you said we've all learned a lot. I think we've all had an opportunity to.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Absolutely.
Speaking of mistakes, our interview is called Box Lunch, and here I've gone halfway through, and we'll probably be cooking furiously so as to not to hold you up too much today. What's on your lunch menu today?
Well, I made myself a delicious salad for the studio. So I have a salad with avocados, tomatoes, and corns, and what else? Mini peppers, sweet mini peppers, and I like dressing like lime and olive oil, black pepper, and salt. And then what did I put? Oh, some walnuts. Yes. So
Healthy as always. You really are a dancer.
oh yeah, well, I try. I try my best. I'm Italian, so I can't deny I love pasta.
Well, as don't give it away yet, but as we wrap things up today, I'll try to get mine burnt and scraped off the skillet, and then we'll do a little presentation as we wind things up.
Oh, fun. Sounds like fun.
I'm a true American, so I'm going to have a fried egg sandwich, and then I'm also going to have some jalapeno links I'm going to throw on there. So
I love it. Love it.
how I do with that. So Enrica, you mentioned that you were from Italy, and I believe your husband is from Taiwan. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, can you talk a little bit, because it seems as though you've had an opportunity for some insight into some other countries' progression through the pandemic themselves. Can you share with us, as someone who's been able to experience that, how has it worked for them? How does it compare to us? And what are some of the differences and some of the consistencies that you have seen?
Well, for what I know about Italy, they had a very high cases of infected people last year in the spring. That was really terrible, especially in the north of Italy. That's where my family is from, actually. So what they did, they couldn't travel from one region to the other one. Like, for example, let's say you could not travel from Texas to Oklahoma. The border was closed. And when I say closed, I thought my mom was like, well, what do you mean? I mean, are there like police? She said, yes, there is police everywhere, and they stop you. And if you try, they give you a fine. So it was really serious. And even like, because of course, Italy, yes, it's a big country, but very populated. A lot of people live there, and it's a small space. Even like they were not allowed to go, I don't know, a few hundred yards from their house, from their original address. And if they went too far, the police was there and get them a fine. If you had to go from Forward to Arlington, you had to have a paper to say where you're going. If you're going to a doctor, where the address of the doctor, everything had to be documented, because you were going to get stopped. So that's how they started. They tried to really, for people to take it very serious. And how do you have people to take it serious? Pay fines, isn't it? That's the only way. You say this is dangerous, don't go, limit the exposure. Nobody believes it. As soon as you ask them, pay 300 euros because you passed the border, then they understand, they come back. So that's what it took, and that's how they did. And they had a curfews. I mean, up until like I think a few weeks ago, when pandemic was serious, the curfew was at 6 p.m. and then 8 p.m. and then 10 p.m. But yes, they had curfews. So that's Italy. They tried really hard to be very strict with the people living there. In Taiwan, I think they have down a very well the protocol for contact tracing. I have been, of course, traveling to Taiwan on and off at least once a year before the pandemic. And I think they've had a temperature check at the airport for like 10, 15 years. I mean, you don't have to stop, but you walk through it, but they check the temperature. In fact, one year we traveled back, we were leaving from here, and my husband said, I think I'm getting the fever. That was like 5 or 6 years ago, like, oh, you're going to get stopped at the airport. In fact, he did. You just walk through it. You don't have to stop for temperature check, but they have monitors and they detect. So they called him, they say, come over here, you have a temperature. So they follow up with him, making sure that he was going to the doctor. and that everything was good. That was just a simple fever, and that's it. But they had that in place since after SARS, because during SARS they got scared that they lost, lives, and it wasn't as bad as ever COVID got here. So they had those protocols, and when people came from overseas and they had a fever, they organized. They had a car at the airport waiting for them, taking them to the isolated place, to the hospital. So they knew exactly what they were doing, and people didn't have much trouble wearing masks. What I hear from my sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law is a chemical engineer, and her job is purifying air. You enter into her office and you feel like you are in a forest. You're not in Taiwan. Yeah, it's amazing. The air smells so good because she has all this system to purify the air. So she was giving us information 2 months before hit the pandemic. Go get a toilet paper now. I was like, why? You gotta have shortage. It's like, how do you know those things? Go now. Go get Tylenol. Go get mask. All of that. So they were much more. I think they were much more prepared and more ahead of us.
That's amazing to me. And
yeah,
I don't want to keep harping on that, but there's a lot of people, talked about, oh, how did we get here? Oh my God, what's going on? Right. I told everyone that I knew, just look to the Spanish flu of 1918. It's almost
exactly
the exact same trends. These things have happened before, yet here our minds were blown about how we were running out of toilet paper. You couldn't find Tylenol. And I got to be honest, as soon as we really started seeing a lot of stuff, I just went back and looked at the history of anything else that had happened in the past.
I did that too, because I have one of my adult students. She's really an adult, and she was telling me before the pandemic hit, she says, I think we are kind of due for something like that to happen again. And she shared with me that her family was sold, during that period, and her grandma survived, and that's why she was here now, But yes, that a lot of her family members passed it during the Spanish flu. So it was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, we had a trip scheduled to Shanghai for beginning of March, to go visit my sister-in-law that lives in China. And of course, we had to cancel everything and all. But so I just think that, I think as it's either understand the respect for one another, right? Yes. I want to wear a mask because I'm protecting myself, but also I'm protecting you. I know it's uncomfortable. Who likes to wear the mask? Nobody does. Nobody. But you got to do it. So we can get over. I still have a lot of parents coming in, and my students say, but do they still have to wear a mask? Yes, they still have to wear a mask for a little longer. And it's, in some cases, like you only have a 45 minutes class. Can you just wear a mask for 45 minutes? It's okay. We'll be good. We'll get out of this, but we just have to do it together.
Yeah. I think it's just so important to hear these things, to be able to acknowledge the past. And again, it's really so gone beyond what you think or believe or feel. And you can have all of those things. I still, talk about how I don't go barefoot in the store.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I get it. I know this is a huge dramatic shift from what we normally do. And that word has circled my discussions for a year, and this just is not normal.
It's not. Yeah.
So now I'm curious. You talked about a lot of your company members, I think it was, coming from some different areas. And what are their thoughts about art in the United States, traveling to us? Are they encouraged? Are they tentative? Are they afraid of Americans?
Well, some of them actually, because they were already here the past season when the pandemic hit. So all we had to do was apply an extension for their visa, and they were not even allowed to go to go back to their country.
Yeah.
But we had the only dancer actually that joined us, and his working visa, which usually takes about 2 to 3 months, it took 9 months to get here.
Wow.
Yes. So he finally got here, was the beginning of March, so he was able to do at least the last season, and he's from Japan. Japan was able to control it pretty well in the beginning,
Yes.
and then they had quite of a high invasive cases of COVID.
Yep.
But I think that it depends where you are. Of course, cases go up, protection gets really intense, and people respect it, and you were able to minimize that. So I think that's what happened with Japan. But they all love the appreciation of the arts here in the States. They all do that. They feel there is so much more freedom about expressing, and there is so much more opportunities that are made available to the dancers, to the artists, compared to the country where they're from. And most of them, they even trained here in the States, so they're very familiar with the art environment here. And I think that's why they keep coming back, they keep wanting more. And I also think that what makes art different, it's all the people that come into the States from different type of countries, from different countries. All come here. We love this melting pot so much, and bring our experience, bring our culture. That's what it's beautiful of the United States, because we are all different. We are all from different places, and we bring just so much to everything, I think. Don't you think so?
I do. I couldn't agree more. And, we talked a little bit about this too. It's a real catch-22 to have those freedoms, understand them, and then yet still have some awareness and responsibility to the people in and around your circles. And it's a great point to bring up that personal freedoms do not equal national liberties and things of those nature. And so I find it so interesting that even through all of this tumultuous time we've had with the pandemic, with race, with all of these things that continue to go on, that still is a core value, and why people are so committed to this great nation. It is about that. And I can't say it enough. I really do hope we continue to try to find a balance between those two things.
Yeah.
And I believe each are equally important. And
yes,
it's great to have your personal freedoms, but you still have to be aware of the rest of the people in the room. And it is a challenge that I myself continue to deal with, and just do all I can to support those around me that I may or may not agree with. So it's encouraging. I think things are getting better. I know the vaccines are bringing some relief, and again, with a lot of the practices and protocols in place, it's going to help get us through this. So do you mind talking a little bit about your recital coming up at the Scott? Can you give us a little insight into what folks could expect?
Yes, we usually divide our performances of the recital in smaller performances, because I always feel for recital, for the studio, there are so many kids that it's the first time going on stage, for so many parents, first time to come to the theater. So it becomes an educational trip, not only for the students to learn how you have to appreciate it and what a privilege it is to be on stage, but also for the parents to respect the fact that you're watching a performance. You're not just watching your kid to perform. So I make a point that our recital are about an hour and 10 minutes maximum, but everybody has to sit and enjoy the full performance. You don't sit and watch your kid and leave and then come back again.
Great point.
So I think it's important, because, for me, as a teacher of classical ballet that has such a deep root, classical ballet, and, is such an important art to maintain, but you have to do it well. By doing it well, you also need to know how to present it to the people that are watching. What are you watching? So that's why I articulate the recital, like I make small performances, because I know if I do a recital with an intermission, if that parent doesn't have the child in the second intermission, it will be gone. And maybe they're missing a beautiful advanced student that is doing a beautiful solo, and they miss the progression.
Yes.
You don't see the progression of what's happening when your child is going to be 12, it's going to be 16 or 18, So I am always so excited about sharing that with the parents. And this year, the studio also had developed an academic program,
right,
where kids come in the morning and they do studying online, and then they take a lot of dance classes in the morning too. So I worked with them to showcase how ballet class has developed in the history. So one group represents the 1800, one the 1900, and one the year 2000. So I think that would be very interesting for the audience to watch. So how ballet has developed, because, not everybody understands that what in the 1700 and 1700 already people were talking about pliés and tendus. Well, yes. And guess what? The pliés that did in end of 1700, 1800, we're still doing it now. So it's an interesting, I think I love history. So I like to,
It really is something special. And I always chuckle a little bit when people say they have a new and inventive reimagining of something. And I'm usually like, yeah, okay.
It's been done already. Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we are so excited to have you coming back. Do you mind telling everybody if kids want to take classes, how can they find you? When can we start expecting shows again, and where can we find that information?
So for Ballet Center, you can go to the balletcenterforward.com website. And we have coming up, we have a summer classes, summer intensives for 5 weeks for ages 10 and up. And we only have 2 weeks for the little one. The workshops are articulated for the little ones around, basic of ballet and creative movement. And each week has a theme for the little one. And for the older one, of course, it's more of an intensive, long day of dancing, where they do not only ballet in the morning, but jazz and conditioning and more. And we bring in guest teachers from outside as well. And then for the company, Ballet Frontier will be back rehearsing at the beginning of August. And we had the terrific opportunity to come to have actually in our repertoire the sets and costumes for Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, wow.
Yes. There was a famous ballerina that was back in the 80s. Her name is Gelsey Kirkland. And she and her husband had a company and a school for a while in New York, and they decided to dissolve the company. And, through context, we came to know that they were ready to pass it on. And so my husband and I took a trip to New Jersey, helped to pick up the truck, and we have now here fantastic costumes for Sleeping Beauty. So that's what the company is going to be opening with, the beginning of October, full Sleeping Beauty.
Awesome.
Super excited about that. And then Nutcracker season, and then in the spring we'll have a Youth Dance Festival back at the Scott Theater. And I love that evening because we bring all the talents in the community together, and we give scholarships. It's very nice evening, not competitive. It's just sharing the love for what we do. And then we'll have probably a mixed rap that it will include Lady of the Camellias, a very famous parador from Don Quixote, and Pinocchio. So in that same evening, we'll have France, Spain, and Italy. Boom. And then we were probably closing the season again with Swan Lake because we want to see it. Hopefully, we are so hopeful without mask.
Yes.
I'm hoping so. Yeah. And in between that, in the spring, we are also touring Japan with the company, which has been postponed already twice. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're supposed to go to Tokyo and Osaka for a couple of days. So hopefully that will happen. We're super excited.
Well, we're pulling for you. And Enrica, I can't say it enough. Your passion shows. And we are just so grateful for you guys trusting us, coming back and being at the Scott. And just can't say enough how much we are inspired by all you're doing over there. And and just what a great company you have there. And
Thank you.
very excited to see you again in person and watch some fantastic art. So I don't think I burnt my egg. And are you ready to give us some insight into that beautiful salad you made?
Oh, I'm ready. I hope
All
it still looks decent.
Let's see it.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Okay.
I'll go
Let's see
first.
it.
You take that lid off. So there's,
Oh, that looks fantastic.
and then there's my sausage and egg.
Love
And
it.
just so people don't think I'm gluttonous, that's 1 quartered. It's not 4.
That's great. So here we have my salad.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Tomatoes, avocado, and walnuts, and all of the good stuff. And I love the lime. I don't know if you, I'm sure you love lime taste. I love lime, a little
My mouth
sourness.
is watering.
Oh, how good. Yes.
Awesome. Well, all right. Well, I'm not going to hold you up anymore, and we'll get on to our wonderful lunches here. I will be seeing you very, very soon. And again, from all of us here at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center, to all of you out there, we so appreciate you all watching. Enrica, any final thoughts or words of wisdom for all the people out there?
Let's move forward. Let's do it together and think about the arts and the artists and all the people involved. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It has been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Absolutely. And we'll be seeing you soon. Okay. Take care, everybody. This is where we take bye, Enrica, and we all say bonsoir and bon appetit, I guess.
Buon appetito. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.